You are listening to the daily homily for Magdala in the Holy Land.
Tax collectors and sinners were all drawing near to listen to Jesus, but the Pharisees and scribes began to complain, saying, "This man welcomes sinners and eats with them." So to them Jesus addressed this parable. A man had 2 sons, and the younger son said to the father, "Father, give me the share of your estate that should come to me." So the father divided the property between them. After a few days, the younger son collected all his belongings and set off to a distant country, where he squandered his inheritance on a life of dissipation. When he had freely spent everything, a severe famine struck that country, and he found himself in dire need. So he hired himself out to one of the local citizens, who sent him onto his farm to tend the swine. And he longed to eat his fill of the pods on which the swine fed, but nobody gave him any. Coming to his senses, he thought, "How many of my father's hired workers have more than enough to eat? But here am I, dying from hunger. I shall get up and go to my father, and I shall say to him, 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I no longer deserve to be called your son. Treat me as you would treat one of your hired workers.' So he got up and went back to his father. While he was still a long way off, his father caught sight of him and was filled with compassion. He ran to his son, embraced him, and kissed him. His son said to him, 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I no longer deserve to be called your son.' But his father ordered his servants, 'Quickly, bring the finest robe and put it on him. Put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. Take the fattened calf and slaughter it. Then let us celebrate with a feast, because this son of mine was dead and has come to life again. He was lost and has been found.' Then the celebration began. Now the older son had been out in the field, and on his way back, as he neared the house, he heard the sound of music and dancing. He called one of his servants and asked what this might mean. The servant said to him, 'Your brother has returned, and your father has slaughtered the fattened calf, because he has him back safe and sound.' He became angry, and when he refused to enter the house, his father came out and pleaded with him. He said to his father in reply, 'Look, all these years I served you, and not once did I disobey your orders. Yet you never gave me even a young goat to feast on with my friends. But when your son returns, who swallowed up your property with prostitutes, for him you slaughter the fattened calf?' He said to him, 'My son, you are here with me always. Everything I have is yours. But now we must celebrate and rejoice, because your brother was dead and has come to life again. He was lost and has been found.'" The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
Excuse me. The parable of the prodigal son is very compelling, gathering our imagination and excitement about this amazing short story. Well, probably one of the best short stories ever written in literature, and it has transformed the relationships of the culture of the world. In the time of the Roman Empire, the pater familias would be unquestioned if he killed his son if he needed to, if he was wayward. And Herod did that here, killed his sons when he came back from his newly restored authority under Augustus Caesar. And so it's a very powerful parable, and there's so much in this parable and so many wonderful works of art that also inspire us still today, even the works of art about the parable, because they communicate the richness of the great mystery that's revealed. And I invite you, nevertheless, to look at all the readings today, because in a certain sense they gather all of salvation history. And we could even start with the father and his 2 sons on their estate. It must have been a rich estate, because if the son squandered half of it and they were still able to set up a huge party, and there were servants, and they were very well to do. So even if the son squandered half of the property, it was still, so go back to the beginning then. The beginning, it was an incredible business, family business, estate, farm, great holdings. And in a certain sense, that's the image of paradise. That's where we start off. Humanity starts off there. And so there's everything there. And then the son is not happy, and he goes on a trip to things, he doesn't have enough in paradise. Adam and Eve didn't have enough. Somehow they missed something key. They were ambitioning something more, which means they felt lacking in something. And maybe they were. Maybe it's the journey of life we're all on, to discover what are we lacking that we don't have in all the stuff. And then we have the amazing account of this extraordinary journey from Egypt into the Promised Land, culminating at the celebration of the first Passover with Joshua, crossing the Jordan. And if you drive down Route 90 here to Jericho, which we often do on the way to Jerusalem, and there's a sign just north of Jericho for Gilgal, the place that's mentioned here. And there are ruins there still. And it was an important place subsequently in the early history of the people coming into the land. So it's interesting in this story that there was no longer manna. So we get a lot of stuff for the journey that God gives us to maintain us, but that's not what our life is about. We get a lot of stuff on the original estate Adam and Eve had, but life is about something more than the stuff, than the things. The young man thinks he can take the things, cash them in, and buy happiness, buy fulfillment, buy what's missing for his soul, and he doesn't get it. The older brother is at home, and he's very busy with his father. He's doing all the rules, because by doing the rules, I'll be good and I'll be fulfilled. But then there's a bitterness inside. You didn't even give me a kid to celebrate with my friends. So he's missing something, and he's becoming angry. And he even renounces fraternity, because he doesn't call his brother, he calls him your son. And then the father at the end says to him, you rejoice because your brother was dead and he has come back to life. So for the father, the most important thing is the life of his two sons. And that's why even when the other guy wasted half of the estate, he'll run out to meet him. He's on a journey. The father's on a journey to get them. And the central figure of the whole story is Christ. And he's another son. And he runs out from the father to get the lost children, to bring them back home. And his role was to reconcile everyone to himself, through himself to the Father. That's an amazing mission in life, to be one who reconciles others to the Father, one who doesn't condemn the others who are wayward, one who isn't satisfied just living the rules and doing my stuff and envying and judging and the others are no good. The guy yesterday, the Pharisee in the temple said, I am not like the rest of humanity. What an exclusion. They're all excluded. And he lists all their sins. So here we have an amazing mystery of Christ. And then Paul is addressing a community of baptized who are participating in the Eucharist and the banquet. It's a foretaste of the heavenly banquet. And he's saying we are ambassadors of reconciliation. What an amazing self-identity. Who are you? You are an ambassador of reconciliation. You're a mom at home and the siblings are fighting. You're at work and there's tension in the business. There's tension in politics. There's tension in the church. We are ambassadors of reconciliation in Christ.
Thank you for joining us today. If you want to learn more about Magdala, follow us on YouTube and on Facebook.